Hello and welcome to ASBTDC TV, a product of a partnership between the University of Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center and the Northwest Arkansas Council Small Business Emergency Assistance Program. In this series, we are talking with small businesses, experts, and ASBTDC consultants about the relevant and right now topics and solutions for business. I'm Amy Robinson.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Case, and we're here with Reese and Jeff from Bordinos. And Jeff, I'm going to actually start with you. You have been pretty new into the restaurant arena. Am I right on that?
Yes. So I attended the University of Arkansas, graduated in 2010, and one of my degrees was in hospitality management. I was part of the team that opened the Roost, Chris, and Rogers back in 2007-8, right around there. So I worked in fine dining. When I graduated, I went to work as a beverage manager and then assistant steakhouse manager at Gold Strike Casino in Tunica, Mississippi. And after a little time there, I decided to get into a little more traditional 8 to 5 type role and went into sales. And I am currently director of sales for a company out of Chicago manufacturing restaurant furniture for most major fast food companies. So we would do the design and supply any of the furniture that you see in a Taco Bell, Burger King, Popeye's Chicken, things like that. And I decided I was looking at a restaurant to buy or to potentially open some franchise locations. This was back in about a year ago, last August or September. Ran across Bordinos, which I was very familiar with from dining there in the past. Mm-hmm. And I knew of Joe Finnell, the owner at the time, but I actually did not know Joe. And I engaged with him the beginning of September, and we kind of hit it off from day one. And that started the talks. And eventually we worked out a deal. It took a little longer than planned, but we closed on February 3rd. I became owner of Bordinos.
Wow, what a tough time to close.
Yes. Well, I have to say, who doesn't get along with Joe Finnell? And I'm glad that you all hit it off. He's a very likable guy. I'm sure Reese has some great stories as well. So, yes, definitely a time. So you just hit the floor running right into the COVID era. So, so Reese, tell us a little bit about your history with Bordinos, and you've been there, and now you have a new owner, and then hello COVID. So tell us a little bit about your background and where you all are kind of right now.
Sure. I actually started working at Bordinos in March of 2010, so I've been there for a decade now. And right whenever I would have been celebrating my 10-year anniversary at work, that was essentially the same day that we had to lay off the majority of our staff. It was obviously, really we were just strapping in for the ride. We weren't sure what was going to happen. We had to lay off 45 of our 62 employees on March 17th. We immediately turned around and started raising some money for folks to help make sure that they were able to pay their bills. We continued to run a family meal and put together groceries for people just because we really just had to pull the rug out from under a lot of our staff. So we did our best to be as supportive as we could. Gave them a little bonus in their next paycheck, but from there on out, we've just been adjusting every single week. It seems like every day is a little bit different. Yeah. We're just fine-tuning the details as we go, trying to find a business model that breaks even and doesn't shift too far from our brand has been probably the biggest challenge so far. And now we're back with hopefully with a half of our staff back by the end of the month, but that's just hoping right now.
Yeah. So I think, the theme right now obviously is constant change. And they're definitely, from a business perspective, if there's constant change, then that means you're constantly innovating and changing and adapting. So tell us, Jeff, a little bit about what some of those innovations and adaptations have had to be to reopen, essentially.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back a little bit. One of the most attractive things about Bordinos to me was that there was a management team in place with leaders like Reese and her husband Corey, who is our executive chef, that really could run the restaurant and allow me to keep my day job. And the first 45 days went exceptionally well, and things were flowing great. And then when COVID hit, it obviously flipped our world upside down. Reese kind of downplays what she did for our staff during that time. She really went on the offensive, making sure that she was out in front of getting paperwork done for unemployment, really helping our staff walk through the steps of what they needed to do, and being very vigilant about ensuring that they were taken care of. She also partnered with other local businesses to create the independent or Fayetteville Independent Restaurant Association, which has now changed names, but I'll let her talk about that. So she really went into this role that was far more than just being the general manager of Bordinos, and she did a lot not only for our employees but for the community as well. And I couldn't be prouder of her for that. I immediately had to get on the offensive on how do we make sure that we're a sustainable business and get through this and ensure the safety for our guests and customers. So on the 17th, when we did have to lay off the majority of our staff, we operated the rest of that week on a very limited basis before shutting down dine-in services and moving to a to-go and carry-out and delivery model. We operated that way for the remainder of March and realized that was just long-term not best for our brand. Currently, our menu wasn't really suited for to-go and delivery. Also, we didn't know at that point what we know now. So as far as safety and concern for our guests and for our customer and for our employees, there were a lot of unknowns, and we felt it was best to go ahead and shut down. So from I guess it was April 1st until June 1st, during that time, as a restaurant owner, I kind of became I don't know, I call it leader, but I had to figure out how to navigate the PPP loan and a bunch of new programs that really no one knew much about. So I threw myself forced at that. And Mary Beth was essential with the organization and helping us get involved with the PPP loan, and then eventually the EIDL loan and the Walton Family Foundation. And securing grants and loans through those programs has been just absolutely essential to our business. As we progressed and secured that funding, we started to plan, for our reopening. And we really had to shift our business model because we knew a lot more of our business would be to go and delivery. And so we had to change some of our packaging. We were able to introduce our spring menu and really tailor that menu towards to-go options. We tried to create some virtual experiences to engage our guests even during the time we were shut down. So we had virtual wine tastings where we supplied the wine and a charcuterie board so people could engage with their friends and family and with our restaurant family and walk through those wine tastings. And our distributors, particularly Natural State Wine based locally here in Fayetteville, have just been incredible partners to do that. And I've gotten to know a lot of our guests that I didn't know previously through that experience, and that has been wonderful. And it's also helped drive a little bit of revenue. Probably the hardest thing was trying to decide when to reopen. When the governor announced phase 1 and May 4th was going to be the date that we could reopen, we were pretty quick to decide that we didn't want to be the guinea pigs that were the first to reopen. So we went more of the conservative route and decided to wait a few weeks and set June 1 as our reopening date. I was engaged on the restaurant owners call weekly to try and learn what everyone was doing. Talked to Rope Swing Group, visited a couple of their restaurants to see how they were applying those tactics in their restaurants and tried to learn as much as we could. Reese stayed on top of everything on the personnel side and was just very much a leader locally on figuring out how we could do this safely. It was probably the hardest decision I've ever made, trying to figure out when to reopen, and we did opt for June 1. We have been very blessed in that no one has been sick. Our customer base has been very accommodating and understanding to the restrictions that we've had to put in place. And, I can't say thank you enough to everyone that's helped us along the way, and to my staff for how flexible they've been, and the ones that were volunteers to come back. With the increase in unemployment, the $600 increase to unemployment, I'm very grateful that was implemented, because it helped our employees get through some very difficult times. It did create some challenges on how do you bring people back and encourage them to get off unemployment and come back when they may not feel 100% comfortable. With the PPP loan, we did free up some funds, so we were able to somewhat incentivize our employees to get off of unemployment. So we offered a flat base rate plus a $300 a week stipend for hazard pay. And then we had everybody on a tip share system throughout the restaurant. So it gave them a base rate that was going to be what they were making on unemployment, and then it incentivized the tip share to go above that number. And Reese was incredible with working with our staff on that. And as far as the steps we took to reopen the restaurant, I'll let Reese go into more detail on that.
Yeah, Reese, also kind of touch a little bit on that, the personnel. I mean, from March to June is no short period of time in the world of COVID, because every day is a year. And so tell us a little bit about just kind of that experience on the personnel side, and then how it was to reopen.
Sure. Well, I think that restaurant people are definitely, we're a chosen family. Whenever you work for a restaurant, that becomes part of your family. So of course, I think that it was very clear that it was an incredibly difficult decision for us to make, and that we were making it in their best interests. Honestly, we kind of ran a little bit short-staffed to be able to allow our employees to take that jump and get on unemployment at the beginning of that week, so that we didn't feed them 10 hours for them to be denied unemployment at the end of the week. And we weren't sure, sales were dropping so fast that we weren't sure what we were walking into. So we essentially, the second week of March, or first week of March, we had a break-even week of sales. And within 3 weeks, we had dropped to 10% of that. So business started dropping so fast that we weren't really sure what we were walking into. So I think that the employees made it very easy. And it obviously was incredibly difficult for us to do. And I never in a million years thought I would ever have to lay off the majority of my staff. So they made it incredibly easy, and they were very easy to talk with and get a hold of, and were honest with what they actually needed. They only asked for what they actually needed. That made it incredibly easy to pay rent for one person and be able to just give another person $50 for groceries. It was really, the Fayetteville Independent Restaurant Alliance was a project that a few local owners and operators worked with me on. And we very quickly put together a set of funds with help from the Dixon Street merchants. And that really changed the game. We put together a grocery program. Hannah Withers started feeding people 2 times a week out of Leverett Lounge. The guys that I worked with on FIRA were incredibly helpful, and we kind of came together as a community. So instead of feeling like we all had to take care of our own, we all of a sudden had this opportunity to team together and help the entire industry community. Aside from that, obviously there were some people that worked for us and didn't work quite so many hours that all of a sudden were making more than they've made with us on unemployment. So just calling people back was of course the hazard pay and the tip share was really helpful. We just had to be very clever about who we brought back. We kind of needed a small team of staff that was cross-trained to do everything, so that we had the most flexibility possible. But again, the staff just made it really easy to work through that,
Well, I think your leadership, you guys, I mean, we've been on these restaurant calls, and Jeff, you stood out to me from the very beginning. You guys are people. I know you're in the people business, but I didn't know Reese at the time, but the woman behind the man that really drove home the people part of it, which is awesome. So it's during times like this that I think people like you and companies like you and businesses like you really step up and really create a better future for everybody. So I just wanted to give you that plug because I've been so impressed with everything that you guys have done.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much for that. And you know what, some things, Reese has really gone above and beyond what you could ever ask any general manager to do in this, especially under these circumstances. And her dedication to people, I mean, from day one, her thought was, don't pay me, make sure everybody's taken care of. And I kind of had to push Reese to honestly be more selfish for herself, because she's the kind of person that would give everything away to help someone. And it's an honor to work with someone like that. Through all this, we know that, everybody, not just from a health perspective of staying, healthy in a general sense of not getting COVID and being safe, like mental health has been a major issue, and the local restaurant industry has lost several people in the last week due to those things. And so Reese has also tried to be on the forefront by communicating with our employees to make sure that they are doing okay, not only financially, but mentally. And we've tried to explore some options on how we could assist them. A lot of restaurant workers don't have health insurance, and the way that restaurants are structured on a national level, it doesn't really allow for you to be able to offer those benefits in a traditional sense. And Reese was able to identify a teledoc service that we were able to offer to all of our employees and our employees that are furloughed, that we are currently implementing as of this week, to allow all of our employees to be able to meet with a physician for any of their medical needs, and then also for mental health needs. They can, multiple times a week, communicate via Zoom with a mental health professional, a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And if they need to be on some sort of medicine, they can write scripts. And Reese can maybe go into more detail, but it's really been a service that we're able to offer that is, I think, unlike what anyone else is doing. And I think it's a huge help to the industry.
Yeah, the community aspect of this, I think, is I'm glad that this is coming up, because I do think that that's, a lot of focus when it comes to business is economic focus, but the driving forces of the economics are the people that are doing the work. And so, reiterating what Chris was saying about the people aspect. So I'm really glad that we've arrived here. So the alliance and the community, that's the other piece is, we're all in this together, so let's just do it together. So tell us a little bit more about some of those support services that you've been able to find for restaurant workers and each other.
Sure. So we've actually discussed for a really long time how the importance of putting something like this together for independent restaurant owners in Fayetteville. It's just a different dynamic than any other city I've worked in a restaurant. So it's something that we've discussed for a really long time. And whenever this happened, I was on the phone with 3 different people. We were talking about, what are you doing? What do you think that you're going to be okay? Are we going to be okay? Do you have any ideas? How are you guys shifting your business model? What about the staff? And everybody, of course, had concerns about their business. But the question that kept popping up with every single owner operator that I spoke to was, what can I do for the people that I just had to lay off? I wish there was more that we could do. And that's kind of where this was born from, was that concern for the workforce. And I think that, of course, like I said before, whenever you work for a restaurant, obviously you develop this bond with these people, and it really does become kind of your chosen family. So I knew that was a pain that everybody was having to go through at the time. I knew that most of the people that we had to lay off were completely understanding and, of course, scared. And I knew, in a big picture perspective, that one of the biggest struggles that we face as an industry is developing our workforce and retaining our workforce. The last thing that we wanted to happen was for anyone to lose the roof over their heads or have to go without a meal because of this. So that's really where that was born from. And of course, after we've had some time we've been entirely focused on raising funds to provide relief for displaced workers due to COVID up until the past week or so. And we've actually been working to get our 501c3 and become our own organization without having the assistance of the Dixon Street merchants to be able to allocate those funds. And what our goal really is in the long run is, of course, to be a resource for employees and be a resource for restaurants, but also to complete the circle a little bit. So one of the things that we're talking about right now is trying to create some opportunities for some of our employees. They really, they need a job to keep their hands busy. And having to sit at home is probably the most unhealthy thing for them. So we're actually working on a game plan right now to connect the dots a little bit. There are some local farms and some local community organizations that we're going to try to facilitate some volunteer opportunities for those people that are sitting at home. And eventually we would like to be able to organize some of these resources like the teledoc option. It's something that's incredibly affordable. There's a $0 copay for any visit that you might need. They have lots of discounts for prescription drugs. It works really well if you already have existing insurance or if you don't have any insurance at all. I think that's something that we're working on getting that information out to other restaurants in the area so that they can also share that with their staff. And I hope that that's just, that we kind of continue this mindset of being, providing resources to keep our workforce connected with their employers, and continue to provide some resources, and also raising funds for emergencies that pop up. Like we have had some things happen in the past week that have affected our restaurant community, and we're working on a game plan to raise some funds that we can assist their families and assist with medical bills for them too.
Boy, you guys, Bordinos and you guys and your leadership is the epitome of taking a bad situation and turning it into an opportunity.
Absolutely.
So,
Can you share with us, Reese, a little bit about where people can find information on that? I know that Fayetteville community is unique. I think that we're finding the Northwest Arkansas community is really looking for organizations like that to emulate. And so if somebody could reach out to you or reach out to the organization as you're growing into a 501c3, how can they find you?
Yeah, we have our website up. It is fayira.org. You are welcome to go on there. I'm trying to keep it as updated as possible as we move along. There is an option to join our mailing list, and that is something that I hope to kick off hopefully by the end of this week or beginning of next week. We'll be sending out our first newsletter, and that will become a regular resource that we send out to our local restaurants. And there's going to be information in there for operators and for employees, so it's not directed one way or the other. I've had a lot of people ask me about membership, and that's just not something we aren't. We're very sensitive to the situation that other independently owned organizations are in, and we are not going to ask for any membership fees, at least until through the rest of the year, at least. So
fantastic. I love this. Well, thank you all so much, and thank everyone who is listening and joining us. To everyone listening and joining us, if you have a suggested topic, a question that you need answered, someone you'd like to hear from, a great story that you'd like to share, like the one that the Bordinos team shared with us today, please contact us at bizhelp, BUSHELP, at uark.edu and put TV in the subject line. If you are interested in benefiting from our free one-on-one consulting assistance, please sign up at ASBTDC.uark.edu. Thank you all so much for being here today. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all very much.
thank you for your time. Yeah, thanks for doing this. It's awesome.
Thank you.